Hello, we'd like to welcome you to the 6th chapter of the book of Amos. We're continuing with the woes that Amos mentioned in the previous chapters. And this chapter here, we're going to be featuring the definite article. And the definite article in this case will be the featuring the verb, the participle, which is actually a part of a noun. It's associated to the noun. It's a gerund. The words generally end with an ing, and they are highlighted, as you can see right here, with this peach color. And when we get to it, we'll point them out. It begins in the first verse. Ue tis exuthenusi sion, ke tis pepithosin epi to oros Samarias, apetreigesan arkas ethnon, ke isilthon iaptis ikos to Israel. Woe, woe, they, to the ones treating Zion with contempt, and to the ones yielding upon the mountain of Samaria. To the ones yielding. There's the tis, the dative, plural, masculine. Yielding upon, epi, the epidermis, the skin upon. The oros, the mountain. We have orography or ore. People that lived in the area of northern Israel, the northern kingdom, woe to them that relied on their mountain and their strength. It says, apatrigisan, they harvested arkas, ethnon, ke isilthon iaptis, ikos to Israel. They harvested arkas, the heads. We have a archeo as a prefix for ancient, archaic, or a monarch. And ethnon is, we have the English derivative ethnic. They harvested heads of nations. And the house, ekos, economy, the house of Israel entered themselves. Diavite pontus ke ithete, ke diilthete akethan is amath rava, ke katavite is geth alophilon, tas kratistas ek ton vasileon tuton, e pleona ta oria avton, estiton emetronorion. Pass over all. Pontus, all, we have pandemic. All, pan is the English derivative for all. And behold, and go through from there into Hamath Rabbah. Hamath Rabbah was an area north of Damascus, up in today's Syria. And Shalmaneser took Hamath Rabbah, this area, in 720 BC, and along with 89 other towns around that area. And so he's telling the people to go up and look in Hamath Rabbah. Basically, did they escape? No. And then go down to Gath of the Philistines. Gath is down in the Gaza area of the Philistines. And did it escape? No. The Alophilon, the other tribes. I mentioned before, in some places it actually spells out Philistine in the Greek letters. And it says, are you too the most excellent out of these kingdoms? Kratistas, most excellent. We see that word used by Paul in front of the governor Felix. Kratistas Felix, most excellent Felix. Are you the most excellent out of these Vasileon kingdoms, the basil plant, the royal plant, basilica, the place where the throne sits? And are your borders, Oria, greater than their Oria, horizon, or the Oria and horizon, the far edge, the border. In verse 3 it continues, E erchomeni e simeren kakin, e agizontes ke ephaptomeni savaton psevdon. The ones coming, here's the Now it's a nominative, plural, subject, coming into an evil day. Kaka, kakin. Kaka is the English derivative, and imeren, ephemeral, day. Again, the ones approaching, the subject, and attaching to. So these are both, could have been purple. The attaching to and the ones approaching. False Sabbath, psevdon, we have pseudo is an English derivative. Sabbaton is a direct transliteration into English with Sabbath. The Northern Kingdom didn't have the temple, and they made up the false religion that they had to do in Bethel, perform in Bethel. E kathevdontes epi klinon, elephantinon, ke kataspatalontes epi te stromne savton, ke esthontes erifus ek pimnion, ke moscaria ek. And we'll continue with that on the next column. The one sleeping, there's a nominative again. The one sleeping upon klinon, incline, recliner, English derivatives. Klinon is a bed. Of elephantinon, ivory, and it's a elephant is the English derivative. And living wastefully upon their strewn beds, and eating kids of the flocks, and young calves. And young calves of the midst, mesu vokolion, herds. Galathina, mesu, we have mentioned before, Mesopotamia, between the rivers, middle, meso, and Galathina, sucklings, gala, galactic, has to do with milk, gala, the Milky Way. E epikrotuntes prostin phonin ton organon, os estikota elogisanto, ke ukos fevgonta, the ones clapping, the nominative, along with the phonin, phone, sound, telephone, of the organon, instruments and organ. As being established, they considered them, and not as fleeting. Elogisanto, logi is logic, is the English derivative, and not as fevgon, fleeting, fugitive is a derivative. These people considered themselves as being established, eating well, drinking well, having a luxurious life, and they considered this a way of life. It was not something that was going to leave them. Verse 6, E pinontes ton dilismenon inon, ke ta prota mira chreomeni, ke uk epaskon uden, epitin sintrivin tu Iosif. The ones pinontes, drinking, there's the participle in there, it's an E, it's in the nominative, the subject, the ones drinking, enon, vino is the derivative, wine being strained, fine wine, didn't have any lees. And anointing themselves, 1, 2, with the foremost perfumes, myrrh, myrrh is English derivative, and prota, foremost, we have prototype, the first one. And they suffered not anything over the destruction of Joseph. They could care less, really. They were living a life of luxury, and they didn't care what was going around them. If the country was falling apart, if somebody was attacking, they're so much into their luxury that they didn't bother with anything like this. Verse 7, Viatuto, nin aikmaloti esonte aparkis dinaston, ke exarthisate kremetismos epon ex Ephraim. On account of this, now they will be captives by a company of dinaston. Dynasty is English derivative of mighty ones. And there shall be lifted away the snorting of horses, epon, hippopotamus. The hippopotamus is a river horse. The hippo, the first part. Potamus is a river, like the Potomac River. It means river. Potomac, Potamus, from Ephraim. The army of Ephraim, the army of the northern kingdom, is going to be taken captive. There will be no more snorting of these horses of the army. It will be gone. Verse 8, Oti omose Kyrios kathiaftu, Dioti vedelisome ego pasentin ivrin Iakov, ke tas horas aftu memisika, ke exaro polin sin pasitis in afti. For the Lord, Kyrios, Kyrieleison, the Lord swore according to himself. He can't swear anything higher. Then I put in that saying, because vedelisome, I might have, well, I didn't highlight that, but that vedelisome is an abhorrence or an abomination. It's used in other places, and it was sort of what the word was used for, flatulence, and it was something horrible, abhorring, disgusting. And God said he abhorred every insult of Jacob, this northern kingdom, and I have detested his horas, his places. Choreography is map making, is a derivative. And I will lift away Polin, city, or a city, polis, metropolis. The Polin is in the accusative, so it's I will lift away city, the city, a city, with all the ones in her. In verse 9 it continues, Ke este ean ipoliphthosi, deca andres in ikia mia, ke apothanunte. And it will be if there should be left behind deca, 10. We have a decade. The Decapolis in the New Testament, it's the 10 cities. Polis, there is Deca, and right before we had Polling in verse 8. So in the New Testament, remember, had the 10 cities, the Decapolis. And then Andros, we have Android. It's an English derivative, in, and N, and in. So even if there's going to only be a few left, they're even going to be dying. They're going to be gone. It's going to be a complete destruction. In verse 10, Ke ipoliphthisonte ikie avton, ke paravionte tu exenenke ta osta avton ek tu iku, ke eri tis proestikosi tis ikias, eti iparki parasi, ke eri uketi ke eri siga, enikatumi onomase to onoma Kyriou. And their family members shall be left behind, and they should press to bring forth their bones, osta, osteoporosis, hardness of the bones. And they should press to bring forth their bones from out of the house. And one should say to the ones set over, to the ones, and this is the indirect object, and it's a tis, the participle. And he asks, is there still any existing with you? And he shall say, no longer. And the other shall say, quiet, so as not to name the name of the Lord. Onomase and onoma, onomatopoeia and noma, name. Don't mention anything, don't, no, everybody's gone. It's all over, quiet. And we don't want to talk about it. And then verse 11, it continues, Otiidu Kyrios entelete, ke pataxi ton ikon ton megan, thalasmasi, ke ton ikon ton mikron rigmasin. For behold, the Lord, Kyrios, gives charge, and he shall strike the megan ikon, great house, megaton bomb. Econ, ecology, the great house with fractures, and the mikron, micro in English, the small econ, economy house, the small house with torn pieces. So The houses are going to be struck, the villages, the towns, the structures are all going to be gone. And then it continues, E dioxonte in petres epi, E parasiopisonte in thilies, oti exas strepsate is themon crema, ke carpon dikaesinis is pikrian. Shall horses pursue in the petres, the rocks? A petroglyph is a writing on a rock. No, I put the no in there. No, they won't. Shall, and that's generally with this E in certain conditions. It assumes, with the E, assumes certain conditions depending on what's following it and what it's associated with. Shall they remain silent around females? No, the male horses won't. For you distorted judgment into rage. Crema, again we had crime was a derivative, a judicial item. In themon we have fume, rage. And the fruit, carpon, carpophore is a fruit-bearing tree, of righteousness into bitterness. So these things don't happen. The horses and around the females and going into the rocks, and so this isn't going to happen. It's made to happen, or it's not made to happen. It's a sure thing. For you distorted judgment into rage. This is what you did. This is what you were. This is what happens. It's like a horse that has a certain tendency. This is what the evil person has a tendency, turning judgment into rage and the fruit of righteousness into bitterness. And this is what these people were set on doing. In verse 13, E ephrenomeni ep udheni logo agatho, E legontes ukenti ischii imon escomen. We'll continue it. The ones, the nominative, being glad, glad over no good word, logo. The one saying, legontes, was it not in our strength? We had kerata, was it not in our strengths? We had horns, kera, rhinoceros, the kera horn. Dioti idu ego epigero ephimas ikos to Israel. Ethnos, ke ekthlipsusin imas to me iselthin isamath, ke eos to himaru ton thesmon. For behold, I will rouse up against you, O house of Israel, a nation. The Assyrians were coming. And they says, and they shall squeeze you to not enter into Hamath up north. They won't be able to go up north and unto the rushing stream of the west, the Jordan River. They won't be able to pass over the Jordan. They'll be stuck in their area. They're going to be squeezed and they're going to be destroyed. Chapter 7 will continue in the next seminar, and where the woes continue, and hope to see you then. God bless.